more people coming in as our event progresses. We're really happy to have all of you with us today and joining us by Zoom. I am Kathy Rennie. I'm the chair of Integrated Marketing and Communications. So welcome to what we call our Future Forward Speaker Series. And the Future Forward Speaker Series always invites top level folks, and we do a deep dive into the things that matter in our space in the industry. And so we're really excited to have two fabulous people here. Our host, who is kind enough to be with us today, Court. Please come in, it's okay.
Come on in, come on in.
Court is our host. He's going to be doing acting as our moderator today. He is has been teaching with us for a few years. He is by far a fan favorite. Our students adore you. They love your classes. They come out learning so much. So thank you so much. We could not have a better moderator than Court. We're so thankful that you accepted the invitation to be with us today. I don't have you introduce our fabulous guest.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Kathy. All right. Well, we are thrilled to have here with us today one of the most influential leaders in the media and advertising space, not just in New York, in the whole country. I mean, it's a big deal. With over 2 decades of experience in media investment and strategy, Cara has been instrumental in shaping the way brands connect with audiences across all media platforms. At dentsu, she oversees some $20 billion in media spend. She leads a team that drives innovation investment strategies and activation solutions for some of the world's most renowned brands like General Motors, Microsoft, Kraft Heinz, Hilton, and Ferraro. Cara's expertise spans traditional and digital media, and she's renowned for her ability to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of advertising, technology, and consumer behavior. Her visionary approach has not only delivered exceptional results for clients, but has also set new standards in the industry for media investment and activation. So beyond the professional, Cara is a passionate advocate for mentorship and diversity within the advertising community. She actively supports initiatives that promote inclusion and empower the next generation of industry leaders. I have to say, she's so dedicated to young leaders that she's flying to Florida in 3 hours and she's here. And she has to drop off her kids with her in-laws, but she still made it here. Like, let's give her a round of applause for that. A lot of people would have said, I need to reschedule, and you didn't. I'm shocked. So please join me in welcoming Cara Lewis, the Chief Investment and Activation Officer at dentsu. Let's give another round of applause. So Cara, yeah.
Quite the opening.
You're quite the professional. You really, and that's what I think is also so amazing. You're extraordinarily humble. You're brilliant. I remember the first time I sat in a meeting with you and I was like, wow, she is sharp. But you come in this unassuming way. You just ask the questions here and there. And it's clear, like, you don't just know what you're doing. You know the whole landscape and you're trying to fit in. So you've had this remarkable career spanning 25 years in media. I guess you started in kindergarten, you know. So tell us about your career story, if you don't mind, particularly sharing, because the students here would love to hear how you got to where you are now.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here. I would say my career thoughts started back with my dad. My dad was in the industry, not in this side of it. He worked at CBS as an audio technician, working on shows like the soap operas that were taped in New York, the early morning and evening news, the Chris Rock show. So when I was at the Thanksgiving Day parade, so when I was little, I would go in on Thanksgiving Day parade and I would go into the editing room and I'd play with all the buttons and I'd meet some of the sportscasters and newscasters, and I was just like totally enthralled with that world. So I think when I then graduated high school and my parents were like, what do you want to do? I'm like, liberal arts, because I have no idea. And then it soon kind of came into the fact that I love media. And that I loved, you know, I have way too many TVs in my household today. I have, you know, just an attachment to really seeing us bring our clients' brands to life. I still, 25 years later, I'm like, that's the commercial commercial, like my team put that there, and my mom is like, what are you talking about 25 years later, still trying to explain what my job is, but I think, what really kind of just got me into it was like the excitement that we're not basically saving lives in advertising, but we're having people actually like buy our clients' products or buy into their services or download their app or play some game on our phone. And so I think it's just so exciting because it's constantly changing, and I've just continued to take on more. So that's what really got me into it, was the exciting, nature of like growing up in that kind of business.
What was your first role?
My first role was a media buyer, assistant media buyer on the Glaxo Welcome account. So it was before Glaxo and GlaxoSmithKline were together. So it was just the pharmaceutical DTC brands. And I worked on early morning and evening news. Like those were my day parts. So I've evolved since then.
Wow. And which agency was that?
I was at the Media Edge.
The Media
Yeah.
Edge.
Yep.
So you're, as Chief Investment and Activation Officer, what innovative strategies have you implemented to navigate the complexities of advertising across different platforms?
I mean, we're still working on that today, but I think the implementation is over the years, bringing it all together, breaking down the silos and like the ownership between the channels, because the channels are all blending together. If you think about how people connect with TikTok or even ESPN, it's via their phone or the TV. It's in a car on the radio with ESPN radio. So we have to bring all those things together and how we can find the audiences. So the biggest thing I think we're trying to do strategy wise to make sure that we're up at front and center for our clients is to make sure that we have practitioners that can talk about multiple different channels. We're finding that we have, 8 different people who enter a room because one person is talking about the TV plan, one person is talking about the radio plan, another person is talking about the search plan. And so we're trying to actually bring all of that together to have some cross-platform practitioners. We still think that having practitioners that are focused are needed because for all intents and purposes, the industry is somewhat staying that way. So you need both. And I think that's the biggest strategy that we're trying to do so that we can then enact the audiences that actually reach the consumer that we're trying to reach, whether it's for General Motors or Microsoft, which in the end can be different consumers.
How do you train someone for the cross-platform? Is there a particular philosophy that you have?
We're starting out with, we're not trying to get everybody to be a generalist. I think that that's the most important thing, because I think when people think about cross training and like working across multiple channels, that they're just going to be very general, and if they're not, they're still going to have a heavy focus. I came, as I said, from linear TV. I still know linear TV and can talk about it very well. I can talk about social and talk about search to a point. So somebody coming from a search background that's going to learn, video and linear TV and audio will always be able to talk search, but they'll be able to talk some of that. So I think the biggest thing is that we don't want people to think that they're just going to become generalists.
I think that's really, really smart. Changing the subject a bit, what specific challenge or challenges have you faced in your career, particularly maybe when you served on Pfizer or General Motors accounts, and how it shaped your leadership style?
I think just from where I've been with, some of the accounts, I think always being on your toes and never settling. You got a call one day that some guy that works for GM went and was announcing the MVP award in the MLB All-Star game or the MLB final game. And he said, "We sell stuff." And then the client's like, "We need every ad pulled off the air right now." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, so when you think about things like that, what we did was instead we went and actually made fun of ourselves. Like we told GM, like kind of make fun of stuff. Like you do sell stuff, and so we took it as like, don't take every ad off. Let's keep the branding. Let's just pivot in social media and start talking about that. So those are sorts of things that I think keep us on our toes, and we need to think about like, okay, the client's going to come to you and say, get us out of everything. But let's think about how we can actually make it build for them and brand them a little bit. And so I think, just having those kind of cases and those kind of things in situations, like I could talk about Subway, like when everybody was saying they had fake tuna, they didn't take the ad off. They just changed the copy because it's not fake tuna. And so they needed to support that. If they took it off the air, everyone had thought couldn't think, they had fake tuna. So it's actually just thinking about those like moments, right? And how we have to react to them pretty quickly.
It sounds like taking what could be the worst thing and making it into one of the best things.
Yeah.
Did you have any trouble convincing clients when you have these sort of difficult moments that they might take the riskier approach by leaving it on and trying to laugh?
I think you have definitely those difficult moments when you have somebody really tied to their creative and you're like, that creative's not actually selling the product you want to sell, like you should pivot, and they're like tied to that creative. Like there are difficult conversations, and there's times where I think some of us go and don't actually strategically think about the conversation we're gonna have. We just go into the conversation, and then the clients are really smart. They're always smarter than us. So we have to go back and think like, what are they gonna ask us when we say that and have all the information? So yeah, we've been in those situations, and sometimes you motor through them. Sometimes they're like, well, no, I don't like that. Go back. And then we go back to the drawing board, and we have to, do the work to get in their good graces to, make an agreement of what they want.
I love that you said that the clients are smarter than us, because I always think that whether it's the audience, whether it is the client, it's easy to dismiss and say, no, they're idiots. And they're not, right? They're not. And so it's a humble way of approaching it, but it's amazing that you're so humble and yet you've risen so high in your career. I just want to mention to the students who are here and those who are on Zoom that I'd like to open it up for questions, but I'm going to ask another question, and then I'm going to come back and say, think of a question that you'd like to ask, and including those who are on Zoom, Marissa's going to help us out with that. Let's talk about technology, because AI is transforming things in ways we don't even know what we don't know. How have advancements in technology influenced your approach to media investment? What tools or platforms do you think will be essential for future success?
I mean, we've built some tools at dentsu that are helping us, and really starting from that lower funnel search perspective with AI. How can we get more precise with who we're trying to reach in search, and make the search queries and the search, resolver faster, smarter. But then we're taking that AI approach into, how we do some things with maybe like voiceovers, and talk to clients about that, how we can do some things with like, creative and tagging. So I think it's different ways to look at AI. I think some channels, not so much are thinking about it, but we're trying to figure out AI like everyone else.
Everybody is, right?
I'm like on ChatGPT or Copilot all the time, being like, okay, should I rewrite this email now? I'm like, oh, that sounds so much better. But I think, AI in certain different aspects is helping us. And I think starting with search and then moving into like some of social and some of the other channels is how we'll probably approach it. But we're building products around it too.
You're building products around it. You mentioned that tagging video, I think, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that? Can you tell us more about that?
I think in terms of, making sure that when we have Mercury, which is our data platform, and we want to reach the audiences that we want to reach versus reaching 18 to 49s, which is, technically obsolete because 18 to 49-year-olds don't all think the same way. We are trying to make sure that we can, contextually tag and contextually think about, different AI versioning of creatives, essentially.
I want to just check in. Marissa, do we have any questions that have come up from Zoom? Not yet. So those of you on Zoom, please think of a question. Those of you in the room, do we have anyone who would like to pose a question? All right, keep thinking of it. I'm going to come back. Oh, listen, we've got Catherine.
Just to pick up on that, I'm curious, how are you thinking about misinformation?
So I mean, news is obviously a big topic. I have a team that sits on my team, and they're called the Media Responsibility Team. And they oversee things from brand assurance perspective, so safety, fraud, privacy, sustainability, and then also economic empowerment. Diva is the team lead. She's absolutely amazing. And with everything going on, she has a really big passion for news and mis and disinformation. So she's actually joining the 614 group to really come together around what's happening in news, because I think a lot of clients automatically think like news is bad, but it actually can be good. And so we want to make sure that news is supported. So we have a group that we're kind of forming and helping 614 in the industry kind of do some work behind that.
You mentioned 614, and I'm sorry if I missed something. What is 614?
614 group is a group that is they're kind of like an industry body, not as big as the IAB, but really around topics like news and around like brand safety and brand assurance.
Oh, terrific. Thanks for that
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah.
You have mentioned that your mother was one of your mentors, and it sounds like your father was too, taking you to CBS. How do you discuss how her journey has inspired your approach to work and family life?
My mom is amazing. The year I left for college, my mom and dad split up. And my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 months into my journey into college. And if you think about that, a mom who, you know, she didn't work, she actually worked for Tupperware, but like she worked a lot, really hard at Tupperware, but she left her job. She went to college to be a fashion merchandiser. She did that until she had my sister. And then she didn't work. She raised her children and she had to reinvent herself at 50 something years old as a breast cancer survivor. And so, you know, she just instilled in us that like you can reinvent yourself at any time. She didn't reinvent, you know, she told me how to be strong. She told me and taught me how to, you know, be able to raise my children and show them that working is okay. Sometimes I think my kids are like, you're a workaholic and you never see us. So like but you have to, you know, you have to balance that. So just my mom instilled in us like, you know, you can reinvent, be your own advocate, support yourself. No one really looks out for you other than yourself. So those are the things I think I take from my mom, and I still in myself every day as I come to work. And I actually talk to my mom almost every morning, the days I walk into the city.
That's amazing.
She's like, I can't hear you, but she's like, are you walking? Yes.
So if you had to give a piece of advice to those who are here, those who are on Zoom, what would you say to them about their career?
Take your career by your own hands. Like you are in the driver's seat. You are what your future will be. Nobody sets that future for you. If you sit and wait for it, it will not come. So if you want something, go after it. And that's what I've done. I was told when we won the General Motors account that I might not be the person that should lead it, that maybe they wanted a male to lead that account. And I was like, absolutely freaking not. I am going to lead that account. And I did. So I went to my boss and I said, if you do that, then I need to think about my career here. And I worked on that pitch and I should be working on it. And I should, regardless of my gender, I can do it. And years later, I was told I should have never said that. And I should have never thought about that because you were amazing. Yeah. Meaning like I did amazing.
Oh, you did amazing. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I misunderstood.
They crawled back and were like, okay, I should have never said that.
They should have never said that.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Well, so I follow you on LinkedIn, and it's amazing because you do all these industry things, and you also very clearly are very much involved in your kid's life, and your husband has a new company. And so how do you manage the demands of your professional and your personal life at the level that you're at? Because few people reach the level that you're at in the industry.
I just saw a funny Instagram story from one of my friends that's like this woman laying in bed. It's like 12:15 on her like little side clock, and her eyes are like going like this and she's wide awake, and it's like thinking like I feel like I don't really get a good night's sleep. And every morning my husband's like, how'd you sleep last night? I'm like, did I? I was like, I don't know, but I actually don't know. I mean, people ask me that question a lot. How do you do the things you do? I have a lot of passions. I myself am a breast cancer survivor. I did not know if I was going to be able to have children. My children are absolute miracles. And so I want them to see like, you know, that their mom is a powerhouse and that I can do the things that I do for them and also do the things that I do for our family and for work. We're a reverse family. My husband was in this business for almost 20 years. He left to kind of take care of the kids and start a business. And he is like the most supportive thing ever, but he's stay-at-home dad. And like, you know, that's kind of a little bit of starting to become a norm, but he's also a powerhouse in himself because he's running them from a lot of different things. And I think I just have such a supportive husband. I think he allows me to do that. He knows that I have a ton of passions. And I guess, you know, with me being diagnosed the thing I learned from that, I was so young, I kind of felt when my mom was diagnosed that I was gonna get what she had. And when I did, I had, 6 years that I had a lot to think about. I couldn't have kids because I was on medication and going through treatments. I was newly married, and we had met in college, so we had a great foundation. We had 6 years to enjoy our lives, which not a lot of people get. They rush into kids, not rush into kids, but they have kids right away. And so we got a lot of time together to build even more of a foundation that we had. And during those 6 years, I learned like the reason I was diagnosed was to give back. And so that's why I think I give myself.
Because you're very generous in terms of your mentorship of people, and you're even just talking about breast cancer and saying destigmatizing it is something that you very clearly do, because you post about it on LinkedIn and you get awards and you talk about it.
Yeah.
And it can't be easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me when I was diagnosed was this industry and my friends helped me get through it. Like I sent out an email when people found out I was diagnosed. I told like my 5 best friends, maybe 6 best friends, and then I was like, I can't talk about this anymore. Like I just need to send out like one mass email and be like, I'm gonna be okay. So I sent it out. It was like 250 people on an email, like my college friends, family, work friends, high school friends. And it built over the years to be, I built it out so much that I actually reached the limit on how many people you can send an email to on Microsoft. And so,
And they're your client.
yeah. And so then I just like sent it, started to send it on social media and stuff like that. But, I think, for me, it was like, they kept me going. The industry kept me going, like the support of the industry. And I was young. My husband was in the industry, so we knew a lot of people. And, I just decided that the biggest thing I needed to do was talk about it, because otherwise I'm not helping anyone else by holding it in.
And I think that we often hear people talk about the difficulties of being in the industry, but it's a very supportive industry, as evidenced with your supporting of other people, and then they were supportive of you during your difficult time. And it's amazing the things that you're doing. We've got a couple of people on Zoom. So Marissa, would you mind tossing one out?
Artificial intelligence. Media agencies are analyzing relations, detecting and training content to contextually align their ads, but also improve outcomes from attention to ad results. What are some of the tools that you're implementing?
So we're building a modern video approach. Connected TV was obviously specifically mentioned in that question. So we're building tools and products around how can we better, using the audiences that we have from Mercury, reach the individuals, and then how can we actually contextually reach them. So we have a contextual intelligence tool that we're building. We also have dentsu modern video, and like I said, there's also Descriptor, which is actually a suite of products that we're building out that can be used for artificial intelligence. And we're still at the, I think the new stages of a lot of that.
I heard somebody speak who said, we couldn't have imagined Uber or Lyft when the internet first started, and we couldn't have imagined Venmo. And so we don't even know, we can't even imagine what AI is going to do, that it's going to transform our lives so much. But the fact that you're working on it, if you had to guess, what would you say is the part of AI you're most excited about in terms of your job and the industry?
We've been talking about personalization for a while, and I think AI is the way to get down to that personalization level. And I think a lot of Gen Zers and a lot of even all the other generations are annoyed with getting an ad that doesn't pertain to them. And so I think that is my biggest thing that I'm excited about, is that actually been talking about personalization, but I think with AI, we can get closer and closer to the personalization of the message.
Very smart. Let's come look. Oh, we've got a question here. Yes. And speak loudly if you don't mind, and introduce yourself too.
And follow with the question of artificial intelligence. So I'm really interested in how the client reacts with like the agency using the artificial intelligence now, like AI is definitely become a core. It is an opportunity to also a challenge for the industry. So I know like a couple of the agencies facing the problem with like I have like a negative attitude with questioning about like the agency using AI. So my question was like, how do you rate that? Like dealing with the problem that the client are questioning or worry about this like new tool when agency using this AI?
I don't know that we've actually, I specifically encountered a client having an issue with it, but I mean, we have obviously a lot of transparency with, like, dentsu's built on being transparent with our clients. I would say transparency is definitely key to that, when we're using it. I think also just making sure, like, we contract with our clients, so making sure that language is in our contracts, and, our legal teams will make sure that we're doing that. We tell them how we build products, what they're built on. So I think hopefully avoiding it because we have a little bit of the transparency that maybe some others may not have.
We've got a couple other questions. Let's see. Yes, glasses and then yes.
Thank you. Hi there, I'm Emma. Thank you very much for everything spoken about today. It's so great to hear and really inspiring. I think, as we start out our careers as well, is there a lesson or a tool or some sort of skill that you, in reflecting on your career, that you wish you had going into either your first job or, that you've used throughout your career that you never expected to?
Oh God, I don't know if there's like a tool, but I'm an Excel like freak. So like I do, like my husband's like, you have a spreadsheet for everything. I do. And so I'm excited about a lot of the things that AI can act like and Copilot can do within Excel. Like we've been testing some of that because Microsoft is our client. So I mean, I don't know that I necessarily have a tool. I think, as the tools have become about and the changes in the industry have come, it has made us be able to use some tools to maybe work more efficiently. But I don't know that it's necessarily done what some clients would say in terms of like lessening who should be on the team, meaning like a staff count and stuff like that. Like I think originally when programmatic was coming, they're like, oh, we're gonna automate everything and like when I started to oversee that team, I have more people on that team than I do on my other teams. That's been way more money. So I don't think necessarily automation has knocked down the number of people because we still need people checking the work and humans checking the work. So if I had to come up or think about a tool that I would want created, it would be something that could then check the work of what is happening with the automation. Because it's not, it's not foolproof. Tech is not foolproof. Yeah.
Terrific. Peter?
Hi, Peter Wongard. I'm often the voice of skepticism. And I'm kind of curious, you started almost to touch on the programmatic. We've been hearing in the advertising industry, marketing about precision and scale, highly personalized advertising. And we keep saying it's just around the corner, maybe. But how do you think about that versus the other side of that pendulum, which is just like mass reach, traditional sort of channels where you just reach a whole lot of people with a generic message? In your experience, and I'm sure you guys have tested with different clients, have we gone too far into trying to like be really precise about our audience is and we're just missing a whole lot of people that might be interested?
I do. I think, we have this thing called the Great Brand Reset at dentsu that really talks about how we were in the broadcast era, then we moved to like this performance era, and then we're talking about it as like the algorithmic connected era. And I think in that performance era, we had a lot of clients who went really far performance. And I think that there's ways to go performance with still getting the mass. I think what they did was they, shifted budgets, right, from some of that high mass awareness kind of vehicle or channel to the lower funnel kind of more precision outcome based. There's ways in which to get outcomes in some of that more upper funnel. It's not perfect, it's being built, but if we don't test it, it's never going to get built. So I think that there is a swing back. But the swing back isn't just like, okay, let's just go buy a linear TV the way we bought it last year. It's actually buying it with more precision. And I think, what that did is also push some of those more basic kind of broadcast-y type cable channels to think about how they need to be more techy. And really build in some of that performance and build in some of those products. So, you know, when we're talking to NBC Universal or Disney, they're thinking about things that they needed to build and or building them to be able to get there. And not every channel can do that. So I think we're going to start to see some fallout from some of those awareness channels because they're going to start to lose some of the spend because they can't get to that precision and performance, but it's not the precision and performance that you're necessarily getting in search dollars, if that makes sense. But I think there's a balance that's coming back.
And I'm interested in what you think about this coming fallout. I'm sure if we showed our base hands here, you and I might be the only people who watch linear television at all, right? Right, so what as a media, kind of sitting on all those dollars, like, I don't know how long before you say like, BC, just no one's watching it.
So I think the thing that's keeping some of the broadcasters alive is sports and tentpoles. As much as many thought that some of the tentpoles like the Oscars and Emmys are dying, they're starting to have like a little bit of resurgence. I think the Olympics did phenomenal, basically because they did Peacock end. But if they don't have an end of a Peacock, they're not going to stick around. You know, like if you look at some of the parent companies that are 6, 7 channels, cable channels, they're starting to see the fall off. So I think some of those like longer tails are probably not around for the long run. They're probably going to move into like some sort of fast channel and then it's going to be bundled and they're not even going to be selling it.
I've also heard that the broadcast stations are not going to go away anytime soon because of the government regulation, because they're needed in an emergency. So for example, I lived here during 9/11 when we had issues with cable and we had the broadcast, whether it was radio or TV, was important. The folks who were living through the hell that was Helene with the hurricane, broadcast may be the only way that they're getting information. And so that there's some of that needs to stay.
I also think it goes back to your ask about misinformation. Like news is still very locally driven and still very popular, probably drives the ratings. And I don't think local stations are go away because people need their local news and want to go know what's going on locally. I was talking to Nextdoor yesterday and I think like they're building out their product for like the next generation. I think they've been lagging. And if they could build up their product to what they're saying that they're going to build it up to, it could be a source for local, but it won't peak over local news. There's just something about people wanting to watch local news. Even actually younger generations watch local news.
And even local news often doesn't have the polarization that some of the network or cable does. And it's because people are like, they want to know the traffic. They want to know the weather. They want to know the Little League games. So I want to come back to the folks at Zoom. Marisa, would you mind helping us with the next question?
I mean, obviously, we've been talking about one of the trends, which is AI, and like we're thinking about how we can use that with an investment, which is a little bit trickier. The tools are a bit archaic, but I think we need some of the systems to actually speed up in that aspect. But I mean, you know, trends could be a lot, right? Like we're thinking about gaming. There's a lot going on in gaming. We have a lot of clients kind of doing really cool stuff with Roblox. We have a partnership with them as an exclusive for the last year. So we have 7-Eleven integrating into the game Vital Farms. We have Vital Farms that actually just had some consumers basically say that when they did their activation within the Roblox gaming, that they will always purchase from Vital Farms now, the products from Vital Farms. So like, you know, it's changing some ways in which people think about products. I think, you know, innovation is a lot, like we try to encompass what is innovation actually define and what does the definition of it mean, because it's like the word perfect, like perfect to someone is not perfect to someone else. And so innovation to someone is not what innovation is to someone else. So it's a wide array. We're thinking about AI, we're thinking about gaming, we're thinking about how do we do voiceovers and change voices out because of AI. But I think it all ties back right now in innovation space to something driven by probably AI.
Terrific. Anybody here who has another question? Then yes.
Yeah, hi, obviously, we are speaking table on you, so I have a question. So when you first get into the industry, or maybe your clients are from multiple industries, how do you understand the industry? How do you gather the information to, and how do you distinguish the difference?
When I started, I think when anybody starts in this industry, we need good training programs. And so we do have media school at dentsu. We actually make it mandatory for anybody starting to take those classes. Even if they don't pertain to you, we just started certification programs. So like getting certified on Reddit, getting certified on Amazon, Twitch, like all the different properties, some of them at your leisure, but we have like a mandatory, you have to take 2 by a certain date, and you have to pass a test. And so I don't think anybody would ever come into the industry and not be trained. I also think that the individual teams, like when you come in on my team, most likely you're gonna come and work on a client. So like you might be hired as an associate in social on the Subway team, or you might be hired as an associate on programmatic on the GM team. You're also trained by your individual team. So multiple different ways to get trained and taught in terms of the channel or the discipline that you enter into. Hopefully that answered the question.
I want to just jump in with a quick question that you talked about your mom, and you talked about if you were to change one thing in the industry about how women were treated, what would it be?
I would never have another woman be told that they shouldn't be running an account. Maybe it should be a man. So I tried to change that stigma when that happened. I have a leadership team that is, probably heavily female versus male, to balance it out. I think, supporting each other is really, really important. We have a lot of future is female programs at dentsu. There's 2 or 3 of them for leaders across dentsu to help build up their their career. But again, I think it goes back to kind of uniting and standing together, but also being your own advocate and like helping people push for that. When my team comes to me and they say something like I wasn't able to get through, sounds like I'm like, step right in. Be yourself.
One of the things I think is when I first started off, I look back now and think how amazing it was that the female leaders made it to where they did. And it seemed like that there wasn't the camaraderie and each one help another person. And that I look back and realize because there was only one position, there maybe you were lucky if there was one woman at the table. And now that there's more camaraderie, there's more help. Have you seen what have you noticed in the changes over the course of your career?
I still think we have work to do, to be honest with you. If you look at who was running sales at Disney, NBC, Paramount, Fox, a year ago, it was all female. There's one left.
Deal.
It's all men now.
Oh, it's all men.
Yeah. So I think we need to make sure like we're still supporting that if somebody leaves. Lindy Accarino, I don't know how many people know names, but Lindy Accarino was the head of NBC Universal for a long time. She left, she went to X, and she's replaced by a male. And don't get me wrong, I love Mark. He's fantastic. But then Joanne Ross retired and a male is now leading her role. And then Marianne Gambelli just left Fox and Amanda's leading that role. Was the succession plan for them for that, but were women internally fighting to get that role and not getting it? I have no idea, but I think we have to think about that is if we went in a direction and now we've taken a step back, we need to get back to where that was.
2 steps forwards and 1 step back.
Yeah.
Let's yes. Question.
Just a question about that as we're talking about, career and career choices. I heard you mention earlier that you're seeing and want fewer generalists and more specialists. At the same time, I'm curious about your views on is the function and is marketing and communications more integrated now or less integrated now? How do you think folks should think about their career, specialist, generalist, integrated? How do you look at all of these trends and what advice would you have for someone who's starting a career now?
I actually want us to not be generalists. But to be specialists, there's going to be specialists, and then there's going to be those that can live cross channel. And that's, I think, what we're going to is both. So I think coming in, I think it's choose what your what your passion is, right? Like, are you passionate about entering social? You're passionate about more planning than buying and negotiation. And then that will kind of set a path for you because their understanding coming in. I think after they get an understanding specifically of agencies, because we can be very like, matrixy. I think it's like kind of navigate that area, but also speak up for yourself. If you like, oh, I'm actually friends with somebody on the social team and I want to do that. Like, not a lot of people raise their hand to basically say that, and they kind of go through the motions and then get promoted to the next. But if they want to be more of the generalist and learn more of the cross-platform, that's what we're building out, and I think is really important. I think we're talking about, do we do it with like asking for hand raisers? We never really get the hand raisers, so we're gonna do like a survey that doesn't make a hand raise in front of a bunch of people, but like kind of get a survey out there on like, do you want to have your career growth or so knowing about full funnel, all channels, or do you want to stay a generalist? Because we will still need people who can go talk to a client about what happened on NBC Monday or ESPN Monday Night Football. We still will. Clients call and ask, what was the rating last night? We had my research person send an email this morning and I was like, oh, okay. She was asking CBS how the debate did last night. So you still have that. I actually don't have the answer because he didn't respond yet. Well, if you don't know, CBS or Paramount and Nielsen also split up. So
Yes.
Right now there's no rating. So they're using video amp. So we're trying to get it from video amp. But it's just interesting to see, like, there is still that chain of thought from our clients. And actually, when we've been pitching clients, we've gone in and the way we set some staff is to say, like, this is your staff, that some of them are gonna be video focused or out of home focused or whatever, but then there's like 10 people who are gonna be cross channel. And they're like, we need to see what that looks like by social. I'm like, we need to change clients thinking.
Great.
Yeah.
So many things are resonating that I want the students to really hear. When you talk about your mom saying that, you have to make your own career, or you keep saying, raise your hand. What a lot of students sometimes, especially in a great school like NYU, you're so focused on getting your degree, and then you have all these opportunities like today to network with one another and to be active. But a lot of students that are not here. Right, you guys are all here, and that's great. Can you talk about, and this is even for, we have a lot of international students, but even like, I think about my own career, and it sounds like it really reflects yours. As a kid from New Jersey, I had no contacts, knew nobody, and had to start in college to start making my own contacts. And so it doesn't matter, even if you're US based, you still have to work to build your own networks, and that starts like yesterday.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and it's like a school like NYU where you're gonna have this awesome degree. But a degree alone, you're leaving so much on the table. So can you talk about your network, your ability to build a network, how you have to do that yourself? It's not going to be, well, I always say, like, I say, if you want an apple from a tree, do you lay on the ground with your mouth open? Hoping it falls in your mouth. What do? You climb the tree. So if you're not climbing the tree, we're in the tree, a lot of us, right? So we're gonna keep climbing, but if you have to make that, and so I hear a lot of us chair like, well, I'm international, or well, I don't know anybody here, or well, I'm from New Jersey and my parents are, I'm not connected. What do you do about that?
Well, I would say
do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna do it for you. You're totally right. Yeah, there's parents out there that are like, my kid's graduating from Ohio State, or so can you interview them? Great, yeah, that's done. But like, I think in terms of like the connection starts for me with you guys today. Like, I reach out to you via LinkedIn. I can then, we can talk and find out what you're into. I have connections and friends because I have not worked my whole career at dentsu. I said I started at Media Edge. I went to True North, which became Initiative. Then I left Initiative and went to MPG, and then I went to MPG to come to Cara, which then got bought by dentsu. So I've been at 4 major holding companies in my career. And so, I've made a lot of friends through that, and then I've made a lot of friends through my clients, and then I've made a lot of friends through my reps. And I mean, I'm a pretty personable person, like, I don't really hold back, as you can probably see, but like, I just be open, right? Be open to also have that, dialogue about what you want to do in your work life, but like, give a little bit of your personal too, because that helps build that bridge of that relationship. If you're closed off, it's very hard to build that bridge of a relationship. So I would say, like, for you guys, like, starts today, I think, reach out, like, and I can get you in touch with, anyone within the company. My company is 70,000 people globally. We're in every major country. So, I think we're 5,000 or 6,000 in New York.
I just want to full stop and say how generous you are to say that they can reach out to you on LinkedIn. I will tell you, I always ask when I have a guest speaker if the students may do so. And I was hesitating because you're so high up and you have so many responsibilities. I thought, I don't know if I can ask. And then you volunteered it. I have to say, let's give her a round of applause for that. You have $20 billion of responsibility and you're willing to take LinkedIn requests from students here.
Somebody actually, a couple people reached out to me already and I wrote back. So.
Excellent, excellent. I love that. Let's see if there's another question from Zoom. We've got, yes.
I'm Jeff, and two things. I want to come back to where you said that the industry is really a family. That industry family helps you get through personal times. And I've seen that literally in the last a lot of years, that we really are a family. We're a really smart family. There's this room is a bunch of people in that family.
Yeah.
And I think even for big issues like having women recognized as being in the right place with men, the difference in there. Started out with some real strong women trying to push things and a few men, and it's moved more into the entire family is trying to push for that.
Yeah.
And I think that things happen over a long period of time. And so I commend you for talking about that family relationship. And you showed it in the compassion to say, reach out to us and talk to us and network, and networking has to happen. And I truly believe that every professor in here, Professor Stroud, his contacts and her contacts, we all say, use us, talk to us, link to us, and it doesn't happen as much as one might think. So I was going to applaud your applause to her. But coming back to another quick thing, you talked about training for people coming in, and this, again about this generalist, specialist, soft skills, hard skills. To keep everybody in here in the family, they need to interview and turn in some kind of a presentation of themselves to you, your team. Are we looking at this point for some specialists, some generalists? What sort of rises somebody up to the top where they get to come in and have it?
I mean, I think coming out, like, interviews, I wouldn't turn, I'm not my recruiting team, but I wouldn't turn down an interview, right? Like, I personally, to be honest with you, I am a horrible interviewer. Or at least I haven't interviewed for a while, because again, I've been at dentsu for 14 years, but like, I did interview several times earlier in my career, and it's like, I walked out there, it's like, I'm never getting that job. That was awful. So I think your resume needs to be really good. And that's just, kind of detailing some of the things that like you're passionate about and you learned about in your studies. But I think just thinking about the interview is like always have questions. Like if you come in and don't ask a question, that's like a kind of a non-starter. Ask questions like the company that you're interviewing with. That's super important. Like no details about the clients that they have, no details about like some of the leaders. No details about some of the office locations, like, just general things like that really go a long way. But I think, in the end, it's also don't go in there nervous. And it's hard to say that, right? Because you're always nervous. I'm nervous when I'm interviewing too. But like, I think it's just a matter of kind of just being yourself, because that's what we want to see. We want to see the people as themselves, as if you were on the team already. Because when people walk in the door, it's like first impression. So I think just walking in with confidence and walking in like, I want this job, I know about this company, I know what I studied, I know that I, did well in my undergrad or grad. It's just go in with that confidence, and then, getting the job is then up to the next few questions and discussion that you have with whoever the interview people that.
So, I'm Emma, and thank you so much for speaking today. And I was just wondering, what if the positive syndrome ever like to thank for you? And did that have like talking to you?
I have that like every single morning, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, I oversee a huge team. I have it all the time. Like, again, I grew up in video, and so I just recently, actually in June, got promoted to take on the rest of the funnel with search and retail media, which is like, growing like gangbusters right now. A year ago, I think there was like 10 retail media networks, there's 215 now. And I was like, what's a retail media network 2 years ago? So I mean, I think I'm just always on with constantly learning. And I think the imposter syndrome is, and I have to tell myself this a lot, is don't be afraid to ask the question. There is really no dumb question. We are all learning. It is changing so fast. And I think that that's the one thing with imposter syndrome that gets in your way, is like, you're afraid to ask that question, right? And so don't be afraid. Somebody else has that question, they're just not asking it.
I know we've got a hard cut off at 1, so you can go take your kids to the in-laws and fly to a party in Florida. Do you have any other questions from the crowd here? Okay, great. I've got a couple more questions. One is, with all of your responsibilities, all that you're doing, even letting people reach out to you on LinkedIn, it just made my neck started tensing up just thinking of all of that. How do you deal with the stress of day-to-day life between the personal and the professional?
Not well. I try to just, I think my biggest thing is I try to take myself back to 2006. And that was the year I was diagnosed. And we're not saving lives. We're making lives better because we're selling products that can better people, we're keeping the economy going and all of those things. But I try to just take myself back to my worst time and just say, okay, I need a breather. I try to read if I can, just like a stupid novel that, has very little, like, I guess, meaning. I'm a fiction person, not a nonfiction. And then I would say, talking to my husband, he balances me a lot.
Your LinkedIn, it's so clear the two of you are crazy about each other, and it's really, really sweet and wonderful to see how supportive you are of him and he is of you.
Thank you. Yes, he started his venture this year. He started a food truck. And I'm
so
working
cool.
on the food truck. I don't want to be working on the food truck. I want to be supporting the food truck. And we just had our last event of the season on Sunday. But seeing him happy is important to me. He was in this business for a long time, and this just wasn't doing it for him. Like, he was like, I don't love what I do. And I was like, well, we just bought a house. And then, like, I don't love what I do. A year later, I'm like, well, now I have cancer and bills. Like, and so finally, like, at one point, he was like, I don't love what I do. And I was like, you know what? Go love what you do. And he started this food truck, and it's home with my kids, and my kids are happy and being raised by their dad, and me, but mostly their dad. They're so like their dad, by the way, things that they say. He's happy, and that actually helps our relationship.
And it's a beautiful thing for those of us who know you to see that sort of glow from LinkedIn and other social media. The two of you, it's really, so just a couple of minutes left. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh God, I didn't know you were gonna ask that question. I want my legacy to be who I am, right? A lot of people ask me the same questions that you asked me today. How do you do it all? How do you give back? Like, I want to be known as somebody who is personable and gave back and helped change the industry. I've been involved with some of the biggest clients in the industry, and I've been able to do a lot of firsts with them. that have now lived on and been built out. And I want to continue to do that for our clients and be known for that.
Terrific. What did we not talk about that we should have talked about?
We covered everything.
Any last questions from the folks here in the room or on Zoom?
Take a group picture?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. All right, let's give Cara Lewis a big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your honesty and for your sense of humor and your humility.